classmates.
Good afternoon.
So today we are going to look at a crucial issue that has been in the UK, the racism in football. Before that, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Satsuki Yoshi, and to be honest, football is not my favorite sport.
I did wonder that.
But it is interesting how human culture is connected to sports. So let's look at that. Yeah. So today we are going to look at the punishment is not effective to stop racism in football. We will explore solutions to improve the situation of discrimination in UK football and examine whether the general stance of punishment appropriate or not. Mhm. So the presentation will consist of three main sections. First, we will deal with the term racism and its relations with sports, and then focus on the arguments on how to stop racising people in UK football. And lastly, the whole presentation will be concluded. And then there's more time for questions. I'm excited. So, let's start with the term racism. This stage is extremely important to talk about discrimination in the sports field. There are three key points. The first one is its history. Racism is a term European American scientific articles began to use, and the thought spread in the dominant way, and it was classified before World War II that it is biologically true. Humans are categorized and there are differences in human beings. Obviously, the evidence was denied as soon as the gene was discovered in 1950s. However, the habit still exists. People distinguish people by reasoning their backbone as their fault. Therefore, lots of movement to change the stereotype of racial thinking is happening in this modern era. So, why is researching racism in sport distinct is important? Because sport has strong connection with people's identity. Moreover, the impact of sport games, such as the Olympics and the World Cups, is becoming worldwide. So those identities interact frequently. What makes this situation more complicated, especially is football. As a cultural aspect of soccer, like football, discriminatory behavior toward opposing teams is a main part of supporters' loyalty to their team. As you see the photos,
Why's it got a banana?
because this is the showing discrimination of yellow people, Asian people, or like as you see, they are supporting the teams. However, they are racist, like racing people at the same time. This point will be, and then this point is important, so will be referred later. So the idea of racism can be easily utilized whether cheering the stadium or chatting on the SNS. UK football has been trying to fight with racism. However, there is data that shows racism accounting for 54% of all discrimination reports in both professional and grassroots football, and homophobia accounting for 24% from Kick It Out 2022. As Christa's 2021 fears, society structured on racial terms reproduces racism and has an impact on equality and integration. Right. So, let's now turn to the issue of argument. There are two perspectives to challenge deep-rooted problems in football, which is eliminating racism or educating racism. Both ideas are still in development, and it is a fact that UK football is still finding the way to improve the racial problem. First, eliminating racism is considered as a powerful solution, it's important to acknowledge that it is temporary to control people, but it doesn't imply. Oh, excuse me. First, eliminating racism means establishing explicit rules for discriminating against people. The diagram shows the merit of administered punishment of racial expression. For example, majority of fans who have white backgrounds desire to have strict measurement against racist behavior in confidence. For example, oh, he is he's doing the racism. Oh, the law is written like this. We can punish him like this. And also, penalties have an effect to refrain people from racial attitude to some extent. And SNS, one of the biggest problems in football discrimination, can be controlled better by companies and operating organizations that enforce the law. While eliminating racism is considered as a powerful solution, it is important to acknowledge that it is temporary to control people, but it doesn't imply the disappearance of racism. Berger claims that racist attitudes will find an outlet. Also, there is a question that remains that it is a meaningful action superficially against racism. Moreover, it is unreliable that organization could treat appropriately because the composition is biased with people's specific structure, white and man backgrounds. Now, let's move on to approaching fans' identity. As it was mentioned in the beginning, football is rooted in fans' identity, supporting their team. According to Penfold, it is inevitable to dismantle the deep-rooted nature of whiteness in the excuse me, identities. And then, and the structures of football. This viewpoint stresses the need for awareness and education. It is crucial to prevent the reproduction of discrimination for educating next generation who enjoy football in the UK due to the pervasive dominance of whiteness in society. By acknowledging inherent biases and promoting inclusively from bottom up, football organizations can create a culture that actively opposes discrimination. Overall, the presentation explores the intricate issues of combating racism in football, converting its historical context, the significance of sports in shaping identities, and the specific challenges faced within football. It outlines two primary approaches, as it's mentioned, enforcing rules and penalties and educating against racism. Beginning with the historical background of racism, the presentation traces its origins before World War II and highlights ongoing efforts for challenge racial stereotypes. The prevalence of racism in UK football is highlighted using data from Kick It Out, underlying the impact of social structures based on racial terms on equality and integration. The presentation introduced two evolving perspectives in addressing racism in football, and there are two ideas. As we navigate the complex issue of racism in UK football, it's imperative for all stakeholders, fans, governing bodies, and players to unite in fostering an inclusive environment. While the establishment of punishments and rules have the effect of temporarily suppressing racial discrimination, it is expected that discrimination will continue for a long time to to come. Using education to re-examine the deeply rooted white supremacy that exists in society will truly bring about the change in the way racism is perceived. Thank you so much.
First question. You mentioned the strategy education. Could you give us an example of one technique or any, if you've your own idea of something you've read in your sources?
Thank you so much for asking. And firstly, I would like you to know that I've just found the way of doing education like recently, so I can't tell the exact
Sure.
detail. But in my opinion,